everyone, and welcome to a special Cannes edition of Identity Architects. Yes, I had the privilege of attending Cannes Lions for the very first time, and you know I couldn't resist bringing my microphone with me. Throughout the week, I spoke with some of the most brilliant minds in our industry about what was making headlines at Cannes, what the buzz on the street was, and what they'll be taking home with them. Let's start by looking back to go forward. I asked everyone what had changed since Cannes 2024. The answer was loud and clear. Cookies were out and AI was in. Here's what Matt Barash, Chief Commercial Officer at Nova, had to say on the topic.
It's amazing what a difference a year makes, right? I think last year in 2024, all we did was talk about cookie deprecation, and the only time that the mention of a cookie came up was for dessert. And so it was a great year. I think the conversations were incredibly productive, and there were a ton of them. But I think we're at this inflection point as an industry. And so when I look at the world as we've known it and the digital programmatic era of the past decade, I think we're shifting really quickly into a point of transition as AI starts to become part of the vernacular, right? I think a year ago it was not part of the conversation. It wasn't part of every conversation. Now you can't escape it. So what does that mean for consumer trends? What does that mean for our business? The question is all TBD. And I think that in 2026, hopefully we'll have more definition and we'll have more concrete examples to look at in terms of what people have done to harness the capabilities and build better, more efficient, more effective businesses as a byproduct of what AI can bring to all of us.
Of course, AI dominated the conversation, but what was different this year was the emotional weight behind it. Victoria Usher, CEO of GingerMay, and Joe Zappa, founder and CEO of Sharp Pen Media, both captured the tension between creative anxiety and commercial ambition.
I mean, I have to say AI, right? It was being used last year, but it is huge this year, particularly in terms of, I think creativity was just massive. And Cannes is the festival of creativity. And I think creatives felt it in their heart. So I felt a sense of anxiety and angst. So whilst a lot of the tech companies were really excited about the potential that AI is going to offer, I really felt that creatives feel that AI is going to rip the heart out of what they do. So I think there was a lot of anxious conversations around AI in that regard. And of course, we're so early in the AI journey that most of us are discovering anyway how it's going to fit in. So I'm personally very positive about AI. I don't think it's going to take all our jobs and kill the world, but certainly it's made my life easier already.
I think obviously everyone's talking about AI, and the shift that's happening is people are expecting more specifics and results tied to AI. So Ben and I were talking about, for example, like the onus is on every company that wants to lead its category, whether it's DSPs, holdcos, whatever, to show how it's using AI and to help people understand how the category will change as a result of that technology. And then the challenge then becomes showing results with whatever it is you claim you're doing and shouting about those results so that people actually know about it. I think something that's interesting is I'm starting to see certain clients and companies in the space converge around certain understandings of AI, but talk about them from different vantage points. So for example, like I have clients who are talking about something called like the connected or compressed funnel, about the way like agentic shopping experiences are going to bring shoppers faster from discovering products to buying them. But I have clients who are approaching that from like completely different ways, right? Whether it's like commerce media or creating agents themselves. And so I think it'll be interesting to see these like sort of micro concepts materialize around AI and then see how people are putting them into action, as we said earlier, proving the results.
When I caught up with Toby Jenner, Global Chief Media Officer at WPP Media, and Lauren Wetzel, CEO of InfoSum, they reflected on how AI has moved from promise to practicality and what that means for the people behind the tech.
I think 2024 was around what is it, the promise of AI. I think this year's been much more around the realities, the opportunities and the challenges. And the challenges are the bit that I find infinitely more interesting, actually, because I think we really need to lift the lid on that so people understand the scale of the opportunity, but how many challenges there are in delivering it currently. I'm sure that'll ease over time. And then I think next year will be about the real delivery that we've enjoyed from the learning of what those opportunities and challenges are.
Well, the big trends in 2024 was obviously AI and a lot of hype around AI, a lot of excitement about AI, a lot of companies that rebranded as .ai. I would say in 2025, it's not too dissimilar, but the conversations are more real. And I would also say what I really like is the humanity that people are weaving into the use of AI, the sort of nuance between what can be AI, what can't be. I think in 2024, it was this notion that it's coming for everything. And every company needs to have, their full thesis statement written on how they're incorporating AI into everything that they do and into innovation. I feel like now there's more of a spotlight on the role that humans play in the use and deployment of AI. And so back to a little bit more of our role to play.
For some, the fear around AI is fading and a more human, creative lens is coming through. When I spoke with growth consultant Steph Inez Matthews, she highlighted a growing focus on communities and creators. Then Matt Barash picked up on that thread, sharing how AI's influence on consumer behavior is evolving quickly.
Luckily, I think the AI kind of scaremongering has dissipated. I think that was kind of last year's buzzword. And what I'm hearing a lot about is community-based marketing, that idea of fandoms with kind of creators right at the core of it. There's a lot more kind of campaigns that are looking to target communities, those fandoms that you see online, because there's a real need for human connection. It's something, unfortunately, it's not something that really marketers can control. You kind of have to put it into the hands of your creators. But once you get it right and once you kind of roll with it, you look at the comments, you can react quickly. It really does generate results for your marketing campaigns. But you need brave, bold brands that really kind of trust the creators to do that. But, the likes of McDonald's and Netflix, they stopped calling them customers and their fans. Like, really, that's what they're trying to attract.
So I'm going to go back to AI is everywhere. AI is taking over the world. AI is the threat. AI is an opportunity. It all depends on who you're talking to, the context, and their recognition of what they do and where they're going. And so when I think about the hottest trends or things that are causing buzz, it's really the opportunity that it brings, the effect or the influence of the LLMs on the world that we're in. And I think that, how consumers will ultimately be impacted by how they look for answers rather than search, and what that will mean for the publishers or content creators that have really fueled the advertising market by creating great, engaging experiences for those consumers is so TBD. And so I think people were talking about it. I think I did a lot of listening. And I think that the rate of change that we're going to see over the next 12 months is going to be unprecedented.
And from big picture to the creative heart, Karina Kogan, president and CMO at Napster, summed up the question on many minds. Is AI going to replace us or help us redefine what creativity means?
I don't want to use the word threat, but the word threat has been used that AI poses to creativity. Is it a threat or is it an opportunity, I suppose is the better way to put it. Is AI going to kill our creativity, or is AI a creativity enabler? And I suppose it depends on whose hands it's in, right? But there's all sorts of questions to the creative industry around not just is this going to kill a lot of creative jobs, but is it going to sort of weaken our intellects? Are we going to get so intellectually lazy, because we can just prompt things into existence, that the human spark or the sort of nature of creativity or essence of creativity itself is going to change? And what we deem to be good stories, what we deem to be emotive, interesting, creative storytelling, is that output going to change? Is the definition of creativity just going to sort of morph into something else? It's something I heard over and over and over and over again. I think as CMOs, we tend to be very optimistic and indignant about the idea that our creativity, that AI could sort of surpass us or replace us when it comes to creativity. But it's definitely been a hot topic this year. It was showed up in every panel.
There is no doubt that AI can unlock creativity. But as Toby Jenner reminded me, we can't overlook the complexity that sits beneath the surface.
AI isn't currently simple. It's complex. I love the work from the Coca-Cola company, 3,500 prompts to create the holiday campaign last Christmas. I'm sure that will get easier, but I don't think we're talking enough about the hidden secrets of the complexity of AI. And I think that will ease people's paranoia around job security. This is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of people to bring it to life. And that's the promise that we need to realize.
One of the clearest themes was the need to bring everyone on the AI journey. When I asked Karina Kogan what she was taking back to her team, she shared a powerful idea.
I was in one panel that was hosted by Ad Age with a number of marketing executives, and a lot of them had actually had AI offsites where they like shut the office down, in one case for a whole week, and did a day of training, immersion, ideation around AI. And I loved hearing that. And as a company that works with AI or builds AI and sells AI products and services, it actually never occurred to me that like maybe we should do that too, because but I love the opportunity for a company to lock all of its employees in a room, and whether you're in finance or creative, whether you're in product or engineering or whatever team you sit on, the opportunity to sit, learn the tools, talk about how you could use them, think about how you as an organization can innovate and not feel threatened, but feel like you're in command, was lovely. And I came back, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to advocate for an offsite.
And Victoria Usher shared something that blew her mind and might just blow up a new era of accessibility.
Okay, this would have to be vibe coding. And I really only came across this a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to somebody and they started talking to me about it, and it blew my mind. So I will try to, as eloquently as I can, articulate what they said it is. Essentially, it's using AI for coding, which to me, as they were saying it to me, I was like, gosh, this seems very, very democratic. It is something that we could all do, essentially. So it is using human language to code. So what you're doing is telling the AI what you want the AI to write in terms of the coding, and it comes up with a solution, rather than having to use technical programmers and coders to actually come up with that. The AI is able to come up with the solution, and it feels like very normal people could create some amazing businesses, some amazing apps, some amazing solutions from this. So it is bringing it out of the heads of these, highly intelligent coders and actually bringing it into the masses, which, my God, it could go any direction, but it feels like it's in its infancy. I did have a quick Google of it this morning before our chat, and it has only just been talked about publicly. It's starting to gain a little bit more traction. I think I saw a post last week about it on LinkedIn. So vibe targeting is the other area, which again, it's kind of linked in with the same kind of, it's the same principle as using human language to actually create coding. So it is, this is going to explode. You can see already the potential of doing it. I've already got 10 business ideas off the back of just this that we could use it for. So watch this space, Ben.
But it's not just about AI. Retail media continues to dominate conversations, and Victoria Usher explained why its momentum shows no sign of slowing down.
The hottest topic is retail media. Oh my God, it is so hot. I've been talking about this for a year now, and we have AdVision events as well. And we've been focusing very heavily on the panels with retail media because we've got some really exciting clients coming in actually from Australia in this area. And the reason it's so hot is because it's one of those sectors or areas where you can see enormous growth potential, and companies, businesses are just starting to tap into it. You've got retail media networks being set up. You can see businesses leaning in because they can see the potential for huge profit from off the back of this. And it's an area that's just, I say it's come out of nowhere. The retail media companies are like, guys, this has been around for years. It's just that we're all now paying attention to it. So I think that's going to be huge. I think the growth figures don't quote me on this, 40% year on year, huge potential because there's access to first party data. So these are some of the benefits of it. And marketers are able to actually look at the ROI and really gain huge confidence from that. So that's really promising. So keep your eye on that. That would be my big bet for the next year, seeing an even greater growth in retail media.
Meanwhile, Chris Dunne, head of marketing at ThinkBox and CEO of advertising, reflected on the lack of hype and why that actually might be a good thing. For him and for Lauren Wetzel, the real excitement came from bold new partnerships.
Well, I honestly don't think much has changed from last year, which I think is a good thing. There's no brand new 2025 shiny thing that everyone's obsessed with. There are still conversations about AI, but they've been kind of around for the last couple of years. And so I think that's positive that we're not just looking for something shiny to focus on, because we're quite guilty of that, I think, in our industry. I think what has been nice to see is some big announcements, people saving their big news for Cannes. And, at ThinkBox, we were involved with the announcement with Comcast and the TV broadcaster Sky Channel 4 and ITV. And really, when you have these moments to talk about collaboration, it's a really important time to do it, because in different ways we're collaborating across the entire week. And this collaboration itself is something that people have been asking for a very long time, where the broadcasters are going to make it so much easier, particularly for SMBs or digital native brands that are used to buying their digital media quite easily. It's always been quite tricky in TV to get hold of that. But coming together using Comcast's tech, it's going to be super easy for brands to be able to buy BVOD or addressable linear TV on a new ad marketplace. So that's what I think is most exciting, when you get a moment to have those announcements and do it on a stage. And I think we expect just more of that in 2026. That's the way TV's going, and we want to bring more of that news to Cannes next year.
In terms of topic of, what's sort of the latest and greatest in innovation that I'm seeing, I think it's honestly really unique and innovative partnerships. And so, we work in data collaboration, so we're kind of matchmaking across partners all the time. I felt like I saw some really interesting ones. I think Amazon and Roku would be the example that I felt like caught the most attention this week, giving kind of 80% of sort of access into CTV viewership. We talk about CTV a lot. It feels very fragmented. This feels like it's an answer to bring together those audiences. And so that announcement stood out the most to me. But I would say in general, there's just been a lot of announcements from the types of companies who would otherwise think are only competing. And so it's nice to see collaboration come together at this time of year from some unlikely partnerships.
And then there was one word that Matt Barash never expected to associate with excitement, but now can't ignore.
I never thought I would think of workflow as being sexy, but workflow is probably one of the sexiest parts of this industry in the present tense. And so, 12 months ago, if you had said workflow would be the future, I probably would have questioned you. But now I think it's everywhere. And so when I look at the announcements that have come from holding companies, whether it's come from technology platforms or even publishers themselves, they're leaning into workflow, which has always been, kind of like one of those dirty terms that no one ever wanted to think about or worry about. And now it's moved front and center. And so workflow is the future. AI is a big part of that. And I think that workflow is something that, as a company that's focused on creative, we are really focused on how we fit into workflow for our partners to make a more seamless, easier partnership experience, and for our customers to be able to use us without having to even call us.
It's clear the industry is at another crossroads. Joe Zappa may have put it best.
I think I am going to lean into this idea of redrawing the map. I think we're at this very particular juncture in the advertising industry where categories had ossified, and it had seemed like, no one's ever going to disrupt, say, the largest DSP. And now every category is sort of up for grabs. Obviously they won't change completely overnight, but brands, agencies, publishers, our customers are open to rethinking those categories. And so the question becomes like for each CEO to ask, what is the future of my category? How am I going to shape and define that future? And then again, shout about the way I'm changing it so that people think of me first when they think about its future.
And while Cannes has always been rooted in consumer marketing, Karina Kogan was excited to see B2B finally having its moment in the sun.
Well, one thing that I love seeing is the extent to which B2B brands are having a moment. I think that kicked off probably in 22 when Cannes Line introduced an award for B2B. But the role and presence and sass of B2B brands showing up almost like consumer brands is just really growing. And I think there's more storytelling, there's more dynamism. I think B2B CMOs are having a moment. The creativity in B2B marketing is really flourishing. So I love seeing that. Obviously, as someone who's transitioned from consumer and into B2B, I love seeing the moment that B2B is having, and that feels fresh and new. And growing, I think started a couple years ago, but really showing up in a big way.
Of course, no conversation about Cannes would be complete without talking about who gets to show up, both on and off stage. Steph Inez Matthews and Chris Dunne both reflected on representation that deserves serious attention.
I did a bit of research and I looked at what I wrote in the trade press last year to kind of look at what were my reflections. And my reflections are very much about the Cannes experience itself. So thinking about visible representation across the Palais schedule, but also at all of the events you see along the Croisette. And I was kind of noting that there was visible representation. It felt a lot more diverse and a lot more representative, certainly along the Croisette. And I have seen that go even further. I've been to a lot of events this week which have young talent coming through, lots of different types of people. And I think that, that's where Cannes needs to go. It needs to kind of stay away from being this elitist event. But actually, if we are really serious about nurturing the next generation of talent, we need to give those opportunities and make sure that that's kind of equitably shared. So I've been pleased to see lots of younger people and more kind of representation. And then certainly from the Palais schedule, it's definitely more representative. I've seen sessions for Black creatives, meetups. My old company, Creative Equals, they're running a session with Jerry on kind of how to mitigate for backlash. So, those types of content is on the schedule because that's what marketeers and clients are asking for. So I'm very pleased to see that coming through.
The hottest topic in a lot of the conversations I've been having has not necessarily been a positive one, and that has been the real absence of LGBTQIA plus spaces or content or anything for this community. And that is a real shift in years gone by. I actually went back and had a look at my kind of calendar document that I make each year of what I might go to and what I might not go to. And, in those previous years, last 3 years, there have always been a healthy amount of sessions or events that have celebrated or made LGBTQI plus people feel more included and welcome at Cannes. And there was just a notable kind of absence of anything. And a couple of things did pop up, but I know that some of those were a reaction to knowing that nothing was happening. It was all quite last minute. So that has been very much the buzz in some of the conversations I've had as CEO of advertising. But what makes me then excited about that is there's a real opportunity now to change that for 2026. We've got a significant number of LGBTQI plus people in our industry. In the UK, 12% of people in the last all-in census identified as part of the community. So that's like between 2 and 4 times the percentage of the population, depending on how you look at it. So there's an opportunity to start talking now about how you can create those spaces and make queer people feel more welcome, feel more included, because this year there was less joy for us. So, anyone who has the opportunity to do that, start thinking about it now.
For me, as a first-timer, the magic of Cannes was in the people. And when I asked Matt Barash to sum it up in one word, it really came down to connection.
People. There were lots of them. It's wild how people showed up So they showed up in the masses. There were tons and tons of people there. It just felt like the biggest Cannes yet, but also the right people. They were all the right people, all the people you would want to see, that you'd want to bump into, that you'd want to spend time with, or that you'd want to get to know better. And it was a one-stop shop to build those relationships, forge those relationships, and then ultimately it's what you do after Cannes.
Chris Dunne shared that sentiment with his biggest takeaway.
One idea that really struck me, and it shouldn't have taken Cam to do this, but, you know, humans love humans. We do. That week is all about the people you meet, the people you see and listen to, and the conversations you have. And it just reiterated how important it is to get involved with other humans in a professional capacity. So, you know, my team in particular, I think, particularly if the more junior members of the team are far more reluctant to get out and network in person, and it's just such an important career skill. So I'll really be hammering that and making sure they're carving out opportunities to do it. And then there was one quote that I wrote down on the first day that stuck with me a bit, and it was from Jamie Lee Curtis, who did a really fun, entertaining, I mean, she's kind of bonkers in a wonderful way, but she had this quote. She took it from a book. So she did reference the book, and it was along the lines of, you know, we try and plan everything in life and in our careers. We have a real clear idea of where we want to go. And the quote goes something like, life's trajectory hinges on a couple of seconds you never see coming. And it's about what you do in those moments that matters. And I just love that idea that as much as you can plan where things are going to go professionally, personally, some stuff's going to come out of the woodwork and you will never see it coming. And it's how you react in those moments. So being ready for that. So I love that as an idea. And I think I'll be taking that back and sharing that as wide as possible.
To wrap up, I asked everyone to sum up Cannes in one word. Joe and Victoria were definitely on the same page.
Hot.
2 words. If I hyphenate it, it becomes one word. Fucking hot, Ben. It was so hot.
Toby and Lauren captured the energy and the chaos.
Well, it wouldn't be Cannes 2025, it would be Cannes full stop. And the one word would be intense.
I would say hustle. I think it's halfway point of the year or soon to be, and therefore there's always a little bit of urgency and hustle, but also you're hustling from place to place. You're trying to squeeze in everything. It's funny because so many of us are in New York or London or some of the major cities that sort of dominate in terms of media and advertising, yet it feels like this is the only opportunity you have to see people at Cannes. And so you're always just hustling to try and fit everything in, and hopefully the hustle will just continue to throughout the rest of the year.
Chris Dunne, who was also feeling the intensity, but couldn't settle on just one word.
Well, I can't do it in one word. So I shall do it in 2, intense and lacking. But I think both of those things can be addressed.
And for me, one of the strongest themes that came through the week, both personally and through these interviews, was community. Karina put that feeling into words perfectly.
Community. I kept feeling so just at home with it's a wild place. There's so many people and so many impressive people, but there's such a sense of community. No matter who you talk to, whether it's someone you haven't seen in 5 years and just ran into, or someone you've been LinkedIn friends with but never met IRL, or just a new connection, there was such a sense of community and warmth and sort of desire to engage and be present for each other and celebrate each other's wins and learn about each other. There was such a beautiful exchange of ideas. And I hope that sense of community persists, because it was just you can't, right? There's no amount of digitization of stuff that could replace just spending time with someone in person and shaking hands and feeling the warmth and eye contact that comes from feeling the presence of others in a space.
Cannes 2025 was hot, it was intense, it was messy, inspiring, human, and full of hustle. A huge thank you to all of my guests for sharing their insights, honesty, and time. Don't forget to subscribe to know when the next episode of Identity Architects lands. But until then, thanks for listening.